Right, on the staff, we start with Inspector Bob Cork from Derbyshire. He's been a police officer for 17 years, and he's been the course manager for the last 2 weeks. He took over from Inspector Doug Hoare from the West Midlands. His main interests are caravanning, and he's got a 50 handicap at golf. Next we have Sergeant Stuart Vince from the West Midlands. He's been a police officer for 18 years and he's been on centre for about a year. And his previous occupation was a metallurgist. And he's currently studying with the Open University. Introducing the staff this morning is Chief Inspector Dave Goodwin from Lincolnshire. And following on behind is Chief Superintendent Hopkins from Northamptonshire. He's a commandant at the centre and he's very shortly due to leave. Next we have Sergeant Derek Simpson from Staffordshire. 22 years as a police officer. His main interests are motorcycling and scuba diving.
Well, I wanted you to enjoy some process. You enjoyed that aspect of the course.
Next we have Sergeant Martin Smith from Nottinghamshire. He's been in the service for 8 years and he's been at the centre for about 8 months. He's been studying martial arts for about 18 years. And as well as being a class trainer, he does have an input into the self-defence curriculum as well.
Yes. Yes. It's quite nice actually. did two in the first week of the course. I'd never had a class of volleyball competition. I couldn't see any reason why it's going to change between March.
Yes.
Everybody volunteers.
Next we have Guy Roberts, a West Midlands sergeant, who's been at the centre for 18 months. His main interests are military history and war games, and drinking homemade red wine.
No, with a new contract.
No, I'm not coming around.
Oh,
I've
right.
decided to leave it Thursday.
Not too bad.
I'm going to be self-employed.
No, like 20 years.
So the wife said,
Next we have Sergeant Steve Mole from Staffordshire. He's been at the centre since February of this year, and amongst his fitness hobbies he asked me not to mention his desire for Staffordshire oatcakes.
Not often they catch you, but often
Our next Sergeant Ray Sharrett from the West Midlands. He's been a police officer for over 29 years now, and he's been here for just over 2 years.
Thank you very much.
He's affectionately known to the rest of us on the team as Dad. He still keeps himself very, very fit.
That's right, yeah. I still take it as a compliment. I'm not sure about myself. I'll introduce you to that then. Yes, definitely. Absolutely. Good. That's a nice touch to it. One or two nice different.
And finally on the training staff, Sergeant Pete Barnes from Warwickshire. He concludes his 2 years secondment today, and he's going back to force on Monday. He's a very, very fit local runner, road runner.
I wouldn't say it's the best school.
And taking the parade today is Sergeant Roger Wood. I recognise him with the red sash on. He's responsible for the drill, the public order training here, and also the first aid training. He's been here for many years, and he's a West Midlands sergeant. I think he's affectionately known to the students as Hey Ho.
Stop. Move to right in single file right. Turn. By the front. Quick. March.
Thank you, the staff.
Pass. Halt. To the arms right and left. Turn. Right to centre. Rest. Eyes up.
We start with the A class. You'll notice that the officer on your left-hand side is wearing a yellow lanyard on his shoulder. He's the officer who's been responsible for the discipline within the group when the staff aren't present, and he's had a lot of extra responsibilities. And the drill leader for the A class is PC Paul Lowry from Staffordshire. Says he's 32 but looks 18. He was in the 2nd Battalion of the Coldstream Guards. Amongst his hobbies of golf, church etchings and football, he also includes haggis throwing.
So when you come out,
I've been out now 2 years, so
so I'm sure your past will help.
it did, yes.
What about the other sections? Are they recognised by the ex-servicemen? Well, the ex-servicemen will vary, so it depends not just on their service background, but on the qualities of the individual. And I think that this class certainly, Mr. Mauer here has pulled it together. And I'm sure he'll say he's been drawing on his experience in the government to do it.
Yes.
But when they get out on the streets, the public don't comply like a squad of soldiers.
They don't know, they know. So.
While we're with the A class, can I mention PC Alex Brown from Nottinghamshire? He's not on parade this morning, but he has been part of this course, and he's away in Jamaica on his honeymoon.
Very much so, yes. He is very. Thanks.
Next we have Kevin Atkin from Nottinghamshire, and then we move on to Jeremy Dyer from Warwickshire. He's a 24-year-old officer who'll be working in his hometown of Leamington Spa, and he's already received a commendation for an arrest during his operational phase.
Where will you go to the rest of the
Next we have Ian Ingemells from Lincolnshire and Richard Gardner from the West Midlands. He'll be working at Digbeth, which is the Birmingham City Centre division, and previously an RAF officer. And he's adopted 2 boys from Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Very low changes.
That's the plan, yes. Depends how these reports turn out. But don't mention she. Yes, I thought you might.
Next we have Helen Cragg, a West Midlands officer. She's 19. And we move on to Karen Newman, a Warwickshire officer. Another one who'll be working in Leamington. And she would love to do a parachute jump. And her ambitions within the service lie with the drugs or traffic department.
Well, I've got Police Foundation. Or Services Manager.
Where do you live?
Leamington. Another trunk bar.
Next we have Carol MacDonald from Derbyshire. She's 35. She's already qualified as a sergeant with a previous experience. And she's got an ambition to return here on the staff. She's put up with the food for 15 weeks. She reckons she can handle 2 years of it. And she's also been awarded prize as top student on the course. I think that deserves a round of applause. Move on, PC Ann Jervis from Derbyshire and Danny Harper, also from Derbyshire. And next we move to Kate Langley from the West Midlands. She's 19 and she'll be working in West Bromwich, previously a police cadet.
West Bromwich.
Next we have Carl Collier, Staffordshire PC. He's a football referee and he's secretary of the Cheadle Athletic Club.
That was what, a 2-year training?
2.5 years.
Where were you stationed?
Actually stationed at Haven in Staffordshire.
It's 31-year-old Scott Weir from the West Midlands. He'll be working at Bromford Lane, which is on the eastern side of Birmingham. And amongst his talents, he's an impressionist. Let's just hope he makes a good impression as a police officer.
The company went bust.
That answers that question.
Next we have Taff Roberts from Lincolnshire. He's a 38-year-old officer. He's worked with the RAF in Kuwait and many other places, and he recently went to the palace, I think just a week or so ago, to collect his MBE. I think, okay.
Some of the best way to do it is
Incidentally, they awarded the MBE just a couple of weeks ago.
I'm delighted I saw where did you go after the palace?
I did some Birmingham.
So then Scotland and Queen as well.
She was.
You know there's no more BDS.
Yes, I understand that. Yes.
Through me.
Next we have Phil Battersby from the West Midlands. He used to be a TV licence detective. I don't know which is the most unpopular job at times. We move on to Richard Denny from Warwickshire. He's 21 twice. He'll be working at Rugby and previously worked as a civil engineer.
I'm very pleased to gave me a motivation I wouldn't 20 years had a big change for the wife and the children. Just down the road.
Also as a class, the A class have won the biathlon, which involves a run and a swim as a team. They're also the best turned out class, and they're also the class best at drill. Next we move to Mark Belden from Nottinghamshire. He's 30, previously a motor mechanic. And finally in the A class, Andrew Shrewsbury, a 24-year-old Staffordshire student, previously a graphic designer, and his main interests are golf and football, which includes Stoke City FC. So I'm a Stoke fan as well.
Pass, move right in single file right. Turn. By the front, quick, march.
Thank you, the A class.
Pass. Halt. Advance right and left. Turn. By the centre. Left. Eyes. Up.
This is a drill prefect, so this is a piece of plate.
Okay, we start with the B class with Christopher Clayton from Derbyshire. He's 21. Used to be a private security guard. And I think he's got size 14 feet. And he's a trombone player.
Still not recovered, I don't think.
Did he recover in the gentleman that hurt himself?
Yes, he came here this morning.
How long have you been here for?
15 weeks out of the last 20. So.
Right, and you do what? You'll do.
Sorry?
Yeah, I mean, you are actually. You have to take charge of the.
This squad. So
Right.
Last 2 weeks, yeah.
And where would he be based? In your,
Ryton police station in Derby. It's in Chaddeston area.
that's your home.
It's like 10 minutes.
What do you do the whole thing?
Just a private security guard.
Slightly different.
Yeah. More paid. That's not what I joined.
More work, I think.
Next we have Mick Sugru from the West Midlands. He's 37. And we move on to Mark Sage from Lincolnshire. hometown of Retford, and he'll be working in Gainsborough. He used to be a financial advising manager, and amongst his interests he lists water skiing and the round table.
Just incredible.
Next we have Richard Henson, a Nottinghamshire officer. We move on to Dave Rushton from the West Midlands. And then Wayne Wacker-Jones, also of the West Midlands. He's 21, previously worked as a builder.
What side of the building?
Ground working, that's what I think, slabs.
And you didn't move on to build that weekend?
Tom Wally from Staffordshire. And then Alison Benton-Wilson from Nottinghamshire. She's 32, hometown of Mansfield, and she'll be working in Sutton and Ashfield. And she's previously into sports management. As you can see, we've got equal opportunities now, and height doesn't bar anybody from joining the police service. So you try and cross her and she can handle you, no problem. Dave Shell from Lincolnshire, Steve Fleming from Nottinghamshire. I moved to Asaf Khalik from Staffordshire. He's 25 and he's graduated with a BSc. And Asif in his spare time does a lot of community work as well. Next we have Indipal Sambi from the West Midlands, Ian Redfern from Warwickshire, and then move to Tony Henderson, also of Warwickshire. His hometown is Coventry, and he'll be working at Leamington. And amongst his hobbies, he includes trumpet playing.
When I said price what I was doing, it's the same anyway, just to go come to it.
You're married? How is the wife?
She's very good, very supportive.
Where do you live?
Coventry.
They go home somewhere.
They're allowed to go home at night if they want to.
Oh, do they? Right.
Some do, some don't.
You have family?
Yeah, I've got an older 2.5-year-old daughter. She's great. Thanks.
We have Ian McKinley from Nottinghamshire. He's 43, spent 28 years in the textile industry. And then we move on to Henry Scutt from Warwickshire. He's a 24-year-old constable. And previously yacht charter captain. And obviously his hobbies include sailing.
I did actually. I haven't actually had
This is a big pension contract. So you'll be on board some pension because they can't afford to run them.
And finally in the B class we have Paul Brown from the West Midlands. He's 25. He'll be working at Thornhill Road Police Station, which covers the Handsworth area. Previously worked as an engineer, and he just enjoys sports of any kind.
free agent last night.
What did you do?
Where are you going?
Yes.
What did you do? Labour State. He was the deputy commandant. Probably
So these officers, is a big day for them today, but they've still got 18 months of their probationary period still to go.
Class, move to the right in single file right. Turn. By the front. Quick, Bob.
Thank you, B-Class.
Pass. Halt. Advance right and left. Turn. By the centre. Dress. Eyes. Punch.
Okay, the C-Class. We start with Sean Haslam as the drill leader. He's a 27-year-old officer from Lincolnshire. Previously worked with the forces, and he'll be working at Spalding Police Station. The C-Class actually won the R.J. Dyer Trophy for the best class at self-defence.
So you find, the life with the police work, history,
A bit of a culture shock, I think so.
what was your rank in it?
Corporal, so.
They all have to start from scratch.
Yes.
And where do you live in Lincolnshire?
Holdridge, it's just in Spalding.
So what was that? You had added responsibility.
So we have Stuart Wheeler from the West Midlands and James Greeley from Nottinghamshire. He's previously worked in car sales, so can we trust him? I hope so. His main interests are volleyball and swimming, and he'll be working at Worksop.
I've always wanted to come in the police force since I was about 15, 16 weeks.
How old are you?
23 now, 24 now.
Quite a not in the selection.
Nottingham, so yeah. It's taken about approximately a year to get in from first applying.
People are waiting or before they interview.
Well, no, just from taking all of the tests. It's sort of spread over the year. Thank you.
Next we have Gary Hewsome from Nottinghamshire and John Pocklington from Lincolnshire. He's another ex-serviceman who will be working in Louth.
When I was a fire level, just a few years.
Where did you go?
I served 4 years in Northern Ireland.
That's what I mean.
I went
There's
to
actually
Falklands,
some sort of
Cyprus.
images to all that.
The Paris and the Balkans.
Not in the war, so after the war. I was out and I went to Belize, South America, Jamaica, Kenya, Republic of Ireland.
Did you have it both times?
I never actually went to a coal place there.
Believe was
My all goes on
I
numbers.
believe it's no more now. I believe they pulled out, I think, now.
Let me look at family here.
Yes, we moved down here.
You only family in the police that come back. You're proud and a bit apprehensive.
5 years.
Oh, I was living in Ireland. Second Green Jackets in Ireland.
Next we have Paul Fell from Warwickshire. He'll be working at Rugby. And then Ian Hubbard from Staffordshire. He's 25, used to be a pig farmer. And next we have Quail Wong from Warwickshire. He'll be working in his hometown of Leamington. And he likes to play the stock market, he says. And he's also won the individual prize for the best student at self-defence. Next we have Vanessa Harrison from Derbyshire. Used to be a restaurant manager, and she's got a BA in English Literature.
Oh yeah. It's nice, Derby.
One expecting second place.
What did you do with the class one?
Well,
the individual one.
and then I worked in this competition, and I was a manager.
Competition itself.
Enjoyable.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Mum and dad.
I'm originally from the
Next we move to Hema Chauhan from Warwickshire. She's 21. Used to be an alcohol counsellor, so I'm sure those skills will be in many ways transferable to the police service. And she's another officer who'll be working at Leamington. They seem to be getting a lot of new people now. I don't know what trouble they're expecting, but I'm sure these officers can sort it out. Next we move on to Bev Savage from Nottinghamshire. She represented Great Britain in 1992 in the triathlon, which is a very arduous long-distance event. And then we move on to Zoe Coles from the West Midlands. She'll be working at Birmingham City Centre Division and previously worked as an insurance claims handler.
You get it on his book, it's finished. That doesn't worry you.
Next we have Kath Roberts, also of the West Midlands. She used to be a special constable. Richard Burton from Derbyshire. And then Rob Miller from the West Midlands. He'll be working in his hometown of Coventry. And amongst his interests are weight training and badminton.
Hello, sir. How are you?
There is indeed.
Did you tell the
I went to Sarah's twice in Denmark.
That's right, I was rather proud to be
I did say
the last comment.
Spent 7 months there. It was indeed, yes, very boring.
Carl Matthews from Staffordshire. And then we move on to Malcolm Cook from Warwickshire. He'll be working at Stratford. He's a second dan black belt and a karate instructor.
Yes.
First member of the family insurance.
in your home?
It's kind of but I'm based in Stratford. It's about 25 minutes.
I'm the only person who's ever joined the police now.
Next we have Mark Kelsall from Staffordshire. He used to be a production manager, and he's also got a blue belt in karate. And finally in the C class we've got Andy Miles from Derbyshire. He's an ex-special constable, and his main interest lies at the moment in his wife, who's expecting a baby in October.
Yes, it's got the new policing experiment. They've got to cover the south of the county as well as just Stratford, so it's nice and busy.
Pass, move to the right, in single file right. Turn. By the front. Quick, bob.
Thank you, C-Class.
Pass. Halt. Flip arms right and left. Turn. By the center. Press. Eyes. Punch.
We have the D class. They've won a few prizes as well since they've been here, the General Class Fitness Award, and they also won the St Leonard's Cup for life saving. We start with the drill leader, Andy Timms from Lincolnshire. He'll be working at Skegness, and he used to be a Royal Engineer.
And how long did you do that? 8 years. What were your age? Full corporals. That's right. Where do you live then? At Skegness. Just moved down there. You get a lot of holiday training? Yes. And you married? I'm single. You haven't got a problem with not yet, sir. Where will you stay? At Skegness.
Next we have Tony Lundgren from Staffordshire. He's 35. He used to be a manager for Royal Dunton Pottery, and his main interest is his family with his wife and 2 daughters.
Are you a married man? Yes, sir. And you've got 2 children? I've got 2 girls, sir. And they're going to local school? Yes, sir. Getting on well? Thank you very much, sir. Well done.
Next we have Keith Williscroft from Warwickshire, and Scott Limbury, also of Warwickshire. Although he originates from Leicester, he'll be working in rugby. He lists his main hobby as powder snow skiing.
Yes, that's right. There was no promotion. In the back.
You married?
No, I'm single. That's right,
And how long, what did you say? Where was it? You had the last word in Warwickshire.
With the
Quite a few wonderful.
it was about 17, 18.
You've been getting over
No, I've been out to stay in this.
Is that where you're going?
This is such a country.
Next we have Ian Bowley from Staffordshire, and Richard Scott from Derbyshire. Then we move on to Constance Xavier from Nottinghamshire. She's 29, very keen on sport, and she's played netball for the last 22 years. And she'll be working at Nottingham Central.
Quite heavy, aren't they? Very comfortable.
Very much so, yes. Very enjoyable.
Next we have Helen Cook from Warwickshire, Sue Carroll from Lincolnshire, and Sally Whitehouse from Derbyshire. Sally is 21. She enjoys eating out and going out with her friends and family. Previously worked in research and development in a laboratory.
Yeah, no, I haven't actually.
You get a week's well-known holiday now.
That's right, yes.
That's a good time. And then you report for more
That's right.
basically on the weekend.
That's right. I've got 5 weeks worth to compare. That's right, yes.
One-to-one.
That's right, yes. And I keep back at so I've got 6 weeks. Holidays and
I can't remember something there, but today kids you have look after yourself. I've got a young girl, people here this morning. She's a make for arms. You're going to be very nervous. We do it sometimes. I would not recommend anybody taking on all this. Not because
Next we have Emma Jenkins, 19-year-old officer from the West Midlands, and Polly Graham from Nottinghamshire. Polly loves listening to indie music and going to gigs.
Finances, yeah. That's right. Yes, we did self-defence. I got my level 1 yellow belt.
waiting for the news back, right?
Yeah, all mine. Hope it comes.
I couldn't make out why you did that.
I think it's coming through. Want everyone to see it, feel nice for it.
You never know how they think doing.
Well, that's right.
Next we have Steve Gallant from Lincolnshire. He used to be a prison officer. And then we move to Richard Fox from the West Midlands. He used to be a military policeman. He originates from Belfast, but will be working at Thornhill Road in the West Midlands.
Factory change from one to another. The Law Secretary put it on disk rather than on a normal computer so that you couldn't find it. Said you have a sandwich at the back.
Well, I do have the facility of for my
Where do you live?
Sorry, also. Which is not that far away.
and I don't go looking.
And that was fairly automatic. Fairly automatic.
Well, if I lost my copy, I just put another one off.
It's a shame you've only on 20 years. You were in the 30s. A heck of a long time, weren't you?
Quite a while, so conspiracy.
Mark Hale from the West Midlands. Paul Sage, also of the West Midlands. He used to be an RAF police dog handler.
Hopefully, find a good tutor.
Paul is also married to Paula, and he's another one that's going to be a daddy before the year's out.
Yes, I've got my wife, mum and dad, auntie, a couple of friends.
And they have the best office.
That's it, a bit nervous.
Mo Swinscoe, 21-year-old West Midlands officer. And then Goddy Williams from Nottinghamshire. Goddy's 34 and he used to be a miner.
Is that why they got it?
Probably was before you kicked me off before.
George, of course.
You didn't win this at all.
Yes, that's the one. We still do it now, you still forget when we're marching. You have to keep going today.
And finally in the D class we've got Rob Trow from Staffordshire. He's 27 and will be working at Lichfield. He's previously a miner and a prison officer, and I believe he does a lot of work for charity.
Class, move to the right, in single file right. Turn. By the front. March.
Thank you, D class.
by the centre, press. Eyes, hut.
And finally, the E-Class. They've won the prize for the Lincolnshire Trophy for First Aid. And we start with the... Thank you. We start with the drill leader, Keith Royal from Lincolnshire. He's 34 years old, previously served with the forces, and enjoys field sports and does a lot of running and keep fit work.
14 years. Platoon sergeant with the 1st Battalion of the Royal Border Regiment. Served all over the world.
And then you thought you'd come back into another district forces?
No, initially, sir, I left and tried my hand at quite a few different jobs, only to find that I wasn't suited and looked for something else. And now found it.
And where do you live then?
I live in Spalding, which is about 16 miles from my duty station, Boston.
So you've cropped up 22 years in service.
Yes, sir.
Next we have Jeter Orlack, a Warwickshire officer. And we move to Richard Alsop from Staffordshire. He's 30 years of age. And he previously an engineer at a power station. He'll be working at Tamworth.
Been planning to do for a long time.
Yes, just
Yes, I am.
You got your right?
Cheers, yes. I've a 6-year-old son.
Next we have Andy Wilkes from Staffordshire. He's a 19-year-old ex-cadet. And Lee Healy from Derbyshire. He's 21. He used to be a retail manager. Next we move to Andy Thompson from Nottingham. He's 23 and will be working in his hometown of Mansfield.
Yeah.
The bottom of the stair.
Yeah, that's right.
No, not at all. I had a little go at it, but just kept it cutting the grass. Yeah, I've been to college.
It was Cumberbatch.
The pure shooting sounds.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Is he back there?
Yeah, Bleak's still there.
No, it's not.
Only chat, yeah, comes into that.
Craig Varney from Warwickshire. Lives just up the road in Kenilworth. And then we move to Todd Lomax from Warwickshire. He's 22 years of age and he's got a biochemistry BSc with honours degree.
Yes, it is.
Trina Chesterman. She's a 25-year-old constable from the West Midlands. Hometown of Coventry, but she'll be working in East Birmingham. Enjoys horse riding and weight training.
A car alarm company. Yeah.
I'm interested since we changed the rules on the
Just a bit.
Do you enjoy it?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I have enjoyed it very much.
So it happens up an awful lot.
What was I going to say?
I already have done.
You know how to handle it.
Yes.
So we have Sarah Currier, 26-year-old West Midlands officer. And then we move to Ishbel McGarry from Lincolnshire. She's a Glaswegian, but she'll be working in Lincoln. She spent 10 years with the military police. Very keen on hockey, swimming and volleyball. And she's represented South West Scotland and the Army in all those sports.
Week off next week. Could you stay right? That's what I'm doing in a fortnight's time. Absolutely.
That enforcement and so on.
Was it quite tricky to get, was it quite difficult to get in?
Not really, just too.
Did you have a guest last night?
No, I was lucky after about 3 months. It was very. I haven't even been in the army in time. Let your hair down.
It's been changed since I've been here. I don't know if it's going to ask if they can get really want
Next we have Jeanette Burton from Derbyshire. And then Sean Astall from Staffordshire. He's 27. He'll be working in Newcastle under Lyme. His main interests are fishing and photography. He used to be an admin officer for the Metropolitan Police.
Was it a desk job?
Yes, it was. Newcastle under Lyme.
Just go for but that's the town of
No, I didn't see
Next we have Pete McAlinden. He's a 35-year-old Scot. He's decided to settle with the Lincolnshire Police Service, and he's previously in the Army. Pete can be seen out running just about every evening. He keeps himself very, very fit.
Fine, thank you, sir.
Where do you live?
Yes, down in Grantham. Yes, sir. Two jobs.
You're well trained, and good in the central spot.
So we move to Dave Blackburn from the West Midlands. And then we have Phil Slaney from Nottinghamshire. He's 33. He used to be a design engineer. And he spent a couple of years as a special constable, and he's also a black belt at karate. And I know he's really set his heart on a good career with the police service.
Yes. So that made your mind up.
Push me a little bit further towards this.
It's a big clock. You enjoy it?
I spent 2 years in the special before as a warm-up, so I knew what it was like.
Keep smiling up.
They're splendid.
But you go back to the same tutor.
No, I chose to choose to what I had. That's the idea.
I think the road would be
It was a lot less when I was
I was with him this morning.
And next we have Graham Prince. If I could just ask you to stop there, please, sir. I think you ought to speak to him. His is on his third Modular 4 course due to several injuries. And I'm sure Mrs. Prince will be glad to have him back after all this time. And then we have Neil Pulteney from Staffordshire. He's 19. He used to be a cadet in Staffordshire Police Force, and he enjoys golf and mountain bike riding. And finally, on course 2 of 93, particularly the E-class, we have John Ford from Nottinghamshire. He's 29. He previously worked as a civil servant, and he'll be working in Nottingham Central. And he keeps piranha fish. I don't know whether that says anything about his character.
Class, move to right in single file right. Turn. By the front. Quick, bomb.
Thank you, the E-class.
Right, sit down, please. Lord Lieutenant, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you all to Ryton this morning. I think you should know from the commentary that I'm Chief Superintendent Hopkins for the Northamptonshire Police and I'm the Commandant here. It's a particular pleasure for me today to welcome the Lord Lieutenant of my own county, Mr. John Lowther, and his wife, Mr. Lowther being our inspecting officer. It's also a pleasure for me to introduce and welcome the Acting Chief Constable of Northamptonshire, Mr. Dunn. Also, I'm very pleased to have my police authority represented by Councillor John Gardner and his wife who are here today, and a personal pleasure to have the former chairman of our police authority, Mr. Albert Morby, also present, who for the 5 years that I've been here has given me an awful lot of support. Thank you, Albert. And finally, I'd like to welcome Miss Margaret Clayton, an Assistant Under Secretary of State at the Home Office with particular responsibility for police training. Pleasure to have you all here. There are other guests, too numerous to mention, but on stage with me also Chief Inspector Goodwin from Lincolnshire, who's the number 3 here, and my Deputy Superintendent Linda Drudge, also from Lincolnshire. It's always a pleasure for me as Commandant to welcome visitors to the centre, but particularly friends and family and supporters of students. I'm sure you've heard a lot about this place over the last 20 weeks, the 15 weeks they've spent here. And sometimes I think probably there's some of you who know more about the goings-on at Ryton perhaps than I do, but that's perhaps as well. But I hope during this morning, and perhaps those of you who were here yesterday, you've had an opportunity to have a look at the centre and some of the places and some of the things that you've heard so much about. This is my last parade as Commandant, and I think students on 2 of 93 could be forgiven for having heard this so often and being perhaps bored by the fact. But I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Northamptonshire and the Police Committee for the help and support that I've had during those 5 years. And I'd also like to record my own personal thanks to the Northamptonshire Police for the opportunities I've been given throughout my career. I joined the service as a cadet in 1961 and feel the force has contributed enormously to my personal development as well as supporting me in my professional ambitions. Without that support and encouragement, I would not have been able to benefit from the things that the service has to offer in today's world. But the students, of course, 2 of 93 are the most important people here this morning. And since they first came to Ryton in March, they've learned many things: interpersonal skills, law, procedures, first aid, self-defence, swimming, life-saving, drill, public order, traffic signals. As a parent, I'd also like to tell many of you that the majority of them have also learned to keep their rooms tidy since they've been here. It'll be easy for this group of people who are young and healthy and have a career in front of them to forget those less fortunate than themselves. People without good health, a job, family support or friends. And I'm pleased to say that they have remembered these people. The course as a whole have raised for charity a total of £1,690 in a whole variety of ways. Well done. And I'm going to call upon Constable Anne Jarvis of the Derbyshire Constabulary to present a cheque to Maria Watson, who is attending on behalf of the Coventry branch of the Deaf Children's Society. The Coventry branch has been in existence for 15 years and aims to help deaf children in the most practical way. This is with the aid to communication equipment, in particular radio aids, speech trainers and word-sensitive toys are purchased to help children struggling with deafness to cope in a hearing world. This can also lead to children taking up mainstream education, and the work done by the charity is carried out by volunteers, and all money raised is spent on Coventry children.
I would like to thank every one of you for this check. This is going to go towards aids for children and for country children only. Because the thing is this, a silent world is a dead world, and it can be awfully, awfully lonely. And with aids which we can provide from the Deaf Children's Society for the children in their homes, mainly because at schools they have them anyway. It opens up the radio, the television, they can even hear the birds sing, which I haven't been able to hear for many, many years, because unfortunately, when I lost my hearing, the hearing aids were that size, and now they are that size. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I also gave the students of Course 2 of 93 a challenge 5 weeks ago. As a member of Rotary, I was aware that the Rotary International provided charity boxes that were distributed around the world to areas where there were natural disasters and people were homeless. And I thought we'd be able to fill one box. And those of you near the front will see over on the right-hand side there this box that we have. We've left it open so that you can see the range of things that may be in it. In fact, when I invited the president of my Rotary Club, Rotarian Ken Green, to come along, I said, would he come and accept 3? The good news is, Ken, there are now 4 charity boxes, and I'd like to ask the charity representatives from the course if they'd like to come forward and hand over the boxes to Ken Green, who will accept them on behalf of Rotary International. I'm sure you've all been to weddings and are used to this process of waiting for the photographs.
Thank you. On behalf of the Rotary Club of Coventry Phoenix, may I give a very big thank you to the Police Training College for, I thought it was only going to be 1, but you surprised me by saying we have 4 boxes. Which we will send to our central store in Manchester. And I think you see every evening areas of disaster in the third world especially. And it's this particular project, we send these boxes out in the hope that it will give them some comfort. And we do know that they're very well received. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Before I ask the inspecting officer to present the prizes to the members of Course 2 of 93, I'd just like to add a few words. I leave this post and will be retiring from the service in September, and I'm going to look back with great affection and pride on my time at Ryton. That pride comes from seeing the training delivered and received in a professional and enthusiastic way. My role as Commandant is to manage the resources of the centre to achieve our aim of training constables for the service. Without the commitment and dedication of the staff, this would not have been possible. And I wish to record my thanks and appreciation to all centre staff, police and civilian, past and present, for all they have done in the last 5.5 years. Thank you. And now, sir, may I ask you, with the help of the Deputy Commandant and Chief Inspector, to present the prizes to the members of Course 293 and afterwards address the students and their guests.
Sir, before you present the awards today, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce the members of staff who have helped the students of Course 2 of 93 to achieve their present high standards. And they're all on my left, and they are the course manager, Inspector Quark, and the class trainers and the specialist trainers. And now, sir, to the presentation of the awards. The top overall student of Ceremonial Course 2 of 1993 is PC Carol MacDonald from Derbyshire. And the runner-up to the top overall student is PC Richard Henson from Nottinghamshire. Now, sir, would you care to address the students and their families?
Commandant, members of staff, ladies and gentlemen, can I first of all say how delighted my wife and I are to be with you today, and what a personal honour it is for me to be asked to be the inspecting officer at the Commandant's last ceremonial passing out parade. Chief Superintendent Hopkins, you joined the North Hampshire Police, as you said, in 1963, following cadet service. And after serving in all our subdivisions in North Hampshire, you were appointed Commandant here in January 1988. You have, from all accounts, and I know this personally, done a perfectly excellent job in preparing thousands of young or youngish recruits to take their place in the ranks of those police forces lucky enough to receive their intakes from this training centre. You tell me that the thousands probably is 5,000 or 6,000. This is your 50th parade. And I looked at the board out there, and you seem to have done the job that much longer than anybody else, which is great credit to you. And we are greatly indebted to you. And we wish you and Mrs. Hopkins many years of happy retirement, and I think it's no secret, in that lovely county of Cumbria. And I also would like to thank, as you said, the staff, who've obviously have a great rapport with the recruits and have done a wonderful job in helping you to train these young people. Can I also congratulate all of you who are taking part in this passing out parade today. As I said to you when I talked to some of you, it was a considerable achievement to have been selected by your force to come here in the first place, but to have battled your way through this mentally and physically exhausting and demanding course can only rank as an achievement of the highest order, and well done to you all. There is no doubt that the standards set by today's police forces are exceptionally high, and many young men and women who most employers would be happy to take on do not make the grade required to enter a police training centre. So the parents and the family and your families here today will be very proud of you, and justifiably so. And I would like to welcome you all here. And everybody I asked seemed to have had a mum or dad or an aunt or a boyfriend here today. So I hope you've all got somebody to see this great moment in your lives. Having said this, you have every reason to be somewhat puzzled and apprehensive about your career prospects
and the long-term future of the police force. We've all read about, yes, I'm going to mention it, the Sheehy report and the findings of Lord Runciman's Royal Commission on Criminal Justice. And then I think the government, for good measure, have thrown in a white paper recently. I have to be a little bit careful in my position not to become involved in the murky waters of political debate. But my judgment tells me that the best of Sheehy will be accepted and the worst of Sheehy will be discarded. The police are the first to admit themselves are not perfect, and there are certain reforms that are called for and will obviously come into effect. But believe you me, no government can afford to preside over a demoralized police service, because we all know when the chips are down, there is only that thin blue line between law and anarchy. You will find, when you take up your duties, that the vast majority of the British public are grateful for the way the police uphold our democratic laws. And despite the appalling crime figures, we still live in one of the most law-abiding countries in the world. However, I cannot think of a time when the qualities which you have been taught here of fairness, tact, honesty, impartiality, hard work, and plain good common sense will be in greater demand than when you leave this training centre. You have much to offer, but in return, you have a right to expect a society which shows a respect for authority and a wish to help the police uphold the laws and conventions which have stood this country in such good stead over many centuries. You have every right to expect us all to be playing our part in reversing the social rot which is afflicting parts of our society. Exhortation, alas, will achieve very little. We need to start with the family, because nothing can be done without a conscious revival of parental power and family cohesion. And I'm sure the parents who are here today will back me on that. We must look to our schools and teachers to restore the authority of their predecessors, and to the churches to return to their basic role in society as a moral guide. And so my message to you today is that there has to be an ever-strengthening partnership between the public and the police. You cannot do your job without our support, and we desperately need you to uphold the law and keep the peace. Lastly, never forget that for all its ups and downs, this great country of ours has some of its finest hours ahead. We may be a small country, but we are not a little people. You have much to look forward to, and you have deserved to be passing out today, and I do congratulate you. So good luck to you all, and I am confident that some lucky Lord Lieutenant will be presenting most of you with your good conduct and long service medal 22 years from now. Thank you.
On behalf of Group 293, may I take this opportunity of thanking you today for coming here to review our parade and for the kind words and encouragement that you've given to us. I'm sure myself and my fellow officers will take note of those for many years to come. And also, I would just like to say that we do appreciate your comments, sir, and that we wish everybody, yourselves and our honoured guests, a safe and pleasant journey home. Thank you, sir.
Staff and students, please.
Onward! Dress! Up! Band, ready? General, salute! Salute! Drill leaders, take post!
Ladies and gentlemen, you may now be seated.
Band, ready? Fight! Will advance in review order. By the center! Quick march! Step forward, drum major!
Ladies and gentlemen, now do your short presentation.
Apologise for our short reach. Coming down. May I have your command cars for that set? Thank you very much.
Escort to the cover! Move to the right in file! Right! Turn! By the front! Quick march! Hey! Move! To the right! In please! Right! Turn! Right wheel! Let's go to the colour! Halt! Let's go to the colour. We'll move to the left in file. Left, turn! Take! We'll march past in slow time. Escort leading. By the left. Slow! That! Right will march past in picto. Form falls right by the right. Quick, bar. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Done. Wheel. The major. Roll. By the city!